Today, our Legal Corner will continue in a discussion on present gun laws in the United States and the policies behind them. We welcome now our legal correspondent, who's also attorney, David Lesch, to the show, and good to have you, David.
Well, I think it was a good time to skip the legal series that I've been doing, the A through Z, and I think it was a little more timely to discuss guns and gun control, particularly as it relates to constitutional law. So I want to start off with just a little bit of a reading of the Second Amendment. So
right, because that's where most of the controversy centers around the right to bear arms.
Exactly.
What is exactly? What is
let me read it to you. All right. It says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, when you look at that particular amendment, the question is, do you want to take it in piecemeal, or do you look at it all together? And what I mean by that is when the framers had the mindset to put together the Bill of Rights, when they were thinking about a militia and the right to bear arms, are they necessarily suggesting that we want a militia to be created if need be, and we want the militia to be able to bear arms during a crisis or any particular time that they need to bear arms, whether it's against another government that's coming in to fight our government, or is it maybe, do we want a militia to be able to come in and overthrow our own government in a revolution? These have all been debated in the courts. If you take that point of view, that militia and bear arms were meant to be looked at together, then you're not necessarily taking the view that as an individual you have the right to bear arms. You're taking the view of, well, that amendment was really meant for a militia, a group of people together to come together to bear arms.
How did it get to this place?
Well, throughout history, the amendment has been read as if you have more of an individual right to bear arms and not as a group. Okay. And in support, the judges have looked at your right of self-defense. But self-defense is really written in through criminal law, not through constitutional law. Your right of self-defense is a criminal right to defend yourself. It's not a constitutional right. But because we have been given more of an individualistic right to bear arms, the courts have been giving broader range of that particular amendment. And even though back in '74 we had the assault rifles ban, which expired, expired in 2004, the court has really been giving more and more rights to those of us who want to keep a weapon, whether it's in our homes or have it concealed. And because of this, and because crime has been, in some respect, crime has been lower in many parts of the country, it's given the NRA even more legitimacy in arguing that it's okay to carry weapons, it's okay to have these guns because crime is down, and the Second Amendment gives you the right. But when you have such a traumatic event that occurs, such as that occurred in Connecticut, and other types of events that have occurred throughout our country over the last year, it's a tipping point. It makes you look at the amendment and start to say, hold on a second, is this really what the framers had in mind? Did they want us to be able to walk around with an assault rifle on our property or in different places? Well, you'd say, well, probably not. That's not what the whole purpose of the amendment was. It was to secure yourself maybe against government or against people going against the government, not so you as an individual can walk around with this type of weaponry, which has become so much more sophisticated. Mm-hmm. So you have something like this that transpires. And the NRA now is finally coming forth with a couple of statements. Not necessarily supporting their position right now, but at least making their presence known, the National Rifle Association. But I think because this has happened, we're going to see much more legislation being pushed, certainly by, if not by the president, by now I think he has his vice president, Biden, in charge of the agenda now, to see if we can whittle away at some of the strengths that the NRA has put forth. Remember, a lot of our legislature in Congress who voted against gun control were thrown out of office. So that's why the Democrats do not make this as a platform as they once did. They're like, we have bigger fish to fry. This isn't something we're going to push. So I think now, you say, why now? Why is this going to change now? Well, the tipping point is occurred. It doesn't mean that you're not going to not have the right to have a handgun in your home or different places. But I think certain weapons are going to be banned.
Yeah, and I think they should be.
And they should be. And I think it takes an event like this to make that happen. But remember, from a constitutional point of view, you have to look at that Second Amendment again. And Judge Scalia has read that amendment to mean that you separate militia from right to bear arms. And right to bear arms means you have an individualistic right to bear arms. And that means that right can't be taken away. But a lot of people feel, well, you know what? You can't read it that way. And it's certainly, you can't look at the way the framers has decided how important it was for them to have this amendment, because Judge Scalia doesn't even go into the debate that went on in creating that amendment. He says that don't even look at the debate. Well, I think you should look at the debate to see what happened all those years ago as to why they created that amendment to begin with, because he's using that one amendment as justification to support many of his decisions, which unfortunately are destroying gun control in the United States. And I think he and the courts are going to take a good look at the amendment now and maybe read it a little bit differently in the next few months to see when these challenges come before the court. So we'll see.
Because I've had conversations before with people when it comes to law. There's certain things that are called the law, and then there's called the spirit of the law. And it seems as though right now we understand what the law is in regards to the Second Amendment, but the spirit of the law is not really what's being enacted right now with Americans in bearing arms.
The Constitution in itself is a living, breathing document. That's what we like to say. It doesn't. It just shouldn't be read by just word by word. You have to interpret it, and it evolves. The way we evolve as people, the Constitution is supposed to evolve as well, and to have a strict interpretation of that particular amendment and just right to bear arms and leave it at that, any kind of arms you want, well, it isn't going to hold water anymore. The argument is not valid. So there are going to be certain. Listen, we do require licenses in certain states, and we do require training and background checks. Fine, we do certain things to help protect our citizens, but it's not enough. We need to do more, and I think this is the time. And I've said it a few times while I was sitting here, but this is, again, the tipping point. And you will see in the next 6 months, things are going to change with respect to gun control.
And before I let you go, let me ask you this. How much are we going to see, from your perspective, things be tied up in the courts when it comes to regards
you know what? It's a conservative court, but I do think things are going to change. I really do. I think in the next 6 months to a year, we're going to see a whole different philosophy on gun control.
Things have to change.
Yes.
Dave, thanks a lot.